What is reunification therapy? It's useful in many cases where one parent has been kept away from a child or a child's been kept away from a parent for an extended period of time. And that child is not used to seeing that parent. Sometimes it's a very difficult transition for a child to reunite with a parent that they haven't seen for a while, that they don't know, they don't trust. And there can be other issues that exist in a parent-child relationship. Sometimes it's caused by alienation. The place where reunification therapy comes into play is when a parent wants to get back into a child's life and it's not appropriate for that child to just immediately be thrown into a relationship with that other parent. Sometimes the parent has just been gone for an extended period of time. Sometimes that parent has been excluded from contact from that child. Ultimately, the court is looking at what is in the best interest of that minor child. In many instances where that parent decides and chooses and goes back to court to reestablish the parenting time, what will happen is that the court will ask that there be a reunification process that takes place. And that usually means that it's going to be a little bit of time before the child has regular contact with that parent. And part of that introduction process involves a therapist. And that therapist will meet with the child to find out what the needs of the child are. And we'll meet with the parent to find out how the therapist can help create the smoothest transition for the parent to meet the child and the child to become accustomed to that parent. Whenever a parent is involved in that process, you're going to have delays in that process because the parent and the child are going to have to meet with that reunification therapist. And the therapist has to make their professional decisions on what is the best process to follow. Typically, there will be individual sessions with the child and the parent, and then very often there will be sessions with the parent and child together. It'll give an opportunity for the therapist to see what the issues are and try to help build the relationship between that parent and that child. A lot of parents don't want to have to go through reunification therapy because they say, I'm the parent. Why do I even need to do that? But the courts, in many instances these days, are going to be very careful about how they reintroduce a parent who's been absent from a child's life, even if it's not that parent's fault. That's one of the things that many parents have to understand that have to get involved in the reunification process is it's not their fault. And they have to be ready, willing, and able to take the time to be reunified and not be a shock to the system of their child. It's really important that a parent that is involved in the reunification process to have an attorney that is familiar with that process, familiar with the custody and parenting time issues that exist in every court, to make sure that that process goes as smoothly as possible and goes as quickly as possible, because no parent wants to wait any longer than they need to have a regular, normalized relationship with their child. Usually, the reunification process involves short sessions. They might be 30 minutes, they might be an hour, sometimes they can be a couple hours. And then that process expands into something that is much longer. Sometimes the reunification therapist will observe in public and will observe in different environments to make sure that everything is going smoothly, to make sure that ultimately the child is protected, but at the same time that the parent's rights are protected and that the child gets whatever the child needs, and ultimately the parent gets whatever the parent needs also, to make sure that they can reestablish that relationship, reestablish that bond, and hopefully both of them move forward in a healthy relationship in whatever situation that they have. One of the other considerations in this process is, how old is the child? If we're talking about a child that is 2, 3, 4 years old, the relationship building is going to be entirely different than it might be with a 10, 11, 12-year-old or with a 15 and 16-year-old. Each situation has its own dynamics. Each situation has its own issues that need to be addressed to make sure that the process goes as smooth as possible. Whenever I have a client that has a situation like that, I always have to remind them that they are going to have to be patient with this process. But even though you need to be patient with the process, that doesn't mean that you can't do everything you can to move it forward as fast as possible, because you don't want to have any unnecessary delays, especially when you as the parent want to get involved in that child's life again. You have to make sure to have appropriate representation in this process. You want to make sure that the other parent is not interfering in any way. You don't want that parent to be alienating the child. You don't want that parent doing things and saying things to that child that will make them less likely to want to bond with that other parent. These are just a few of the considerations that exist whenever somebody is thinking about getting back with a child and reestablishing a bond with the child when they've been gone for a little while.